we talk about water scarcity, then people are often confused because water covers 71% of the Earth's surface. Yes, we do have large water reserves, but 97% of it is salt water. Ice takes 2% of the water reserves, so only 1% of the water is liquid fresh water. This 1% has to satisfy the whole world. As a result of that, every 8th people search for clean water every day, and 2 billion out of 7 do not have access to safe portable drinking water. H2O is one of the most important substances, as we use it for numerous purposes. Besides drinking, we also use it in agriculture, energy production, and industries. Domestic use includes cooking and sanitation. Fortunately, there are more and more campaigns that remind people of the importance of saving the water. There are several water conservation methods that are introduced to people because we have to increase access to clean water, as right now, in every 20 seconds one child dies from a water-related illness.
Why is water so important for us? The human body is composed of around 65 to 70% of water. It is the most important thing we can add to our bodies because it plays a vital role in almost every bodily function. Water is essential for proper digestion, nutrient absorption, and chemical reactions. It is needed for proper circulation in the body and flexibility of the blood vessels. It helps remove toxins from the body and regulates your body temperature.
Drinking too much salt water leads to dehydration. How might this happen? If you are drinking water, how can you possibly become dehydrated? Our cell's membrane is semi-permeable. This means that the membrane will allow certain molecules or ions to pass through, but not all. Sodium and chloride are two substances that do not easily pass through the membrane. Water, however, can pass easily through the membrane. If the salt concentration is higher on the outside of the cells than on the inside, the water will move outside of the cell. This is an attempt to equalize the concentrations. This is called osmosis. Seawater, unlike our bodily fluids, has a higher salt concentration. The intake of seawater will cause the water inside your cells to go out of your cells to balance the concentration of salt on the inside and outside. However, since seawater has a much higher salt concentration, the cells are unable to balance the concentration and they will shrink. The body will need to regain an isotonic state. In order to do this, the body will attempt to eliminate the overflow of sodium. The body will secrete urine. Urine can only be secreted from the kidney if it is less salty than seawater. Therefore, the urine will consist of more water than was taken in. This leads to dehydration. To make up for the fluid loss, the body will also increase the heart rate and constrict blood vessels. This is to maintain blood pressure so blood flow to vital organs is possible. As dehydration worsens, these coping mechanisms start to fail. All this can eventually be fatal.
On day 1, the first experiment we carried out was with cotton. We put cheesecloth on the bottom of the tube and put a rubber band over the cheesecloth and tube, so they blocked the cotton to fall in the beaker. Then we added 7 centimeters of cotton in the tube. We measured conductivity of seawater before adding it. After that, we poured the Baltic seawater through the filter twice and measured it again. The salinity level decreased, which was good, but the filtration wasn't as effective as we predicted. The same way we used sand filtration, which was more effective than cotton filtration. Unfortunately, we predicted that the salinity level will decrease even more than in the experiments.
We also used filter papers to filter the seawater. Filter papers use to separate particles from a fluid. It has tiny pores in it. The particles of salt were stuck in the pores. There are millions of pores which are invisible for a naked eye. The filter papers, which are used in chemistry, have extremely small pores and are able to catch the smallest particles. So we placed them in a cylinder and just poured the water through the filter. The filtration paper was not as effective as sand, but it still helped us to get rid of the algae.
We use sand because as water is pushed into sand, dirt is trapped between the granules. This filters out particles and cleans the water. We also tried to use cotton as a filter. We did this because there are cases in Bangladesh where cloth filters are being used to reduce contamination of drinking water. It reduces the pathogen count in the water. Many pathogens are attached to particles within the water, such as plankton.
For our experiment, we didn't want to use distillation, as for that process it is needed to apply energy. Distillation of salt water is commonly used and it is an effective method to produce clean water, but it does require boiling the water for a long period of time, and that requires a significant amount of energy. We wanted to produce clean water as easily as possible. Also, the goal was to apply a method that does not harm the environment. To filter water with cotton, sand, or filtration paper, we do not need to apply energy. In addition, sand as a filter can be reused.
The last method we tried on day 1 was combining the 3 methods sand, cotton, and filtration paper into one big filtration system. We thought that if we combined them, each layer would treat the water differently and work more efficiently. Unfortunately, the method did not work as efficiently as we first thought. However, it worked better than filtrating the water with the different filters separately. Before the combined filtration, the conductivity of the salt water was 0.1531 ppt, and after filtration it was 0.1461. The results, therefore, did not show any significant difference.
On day 2, the first experiment that we carried out was filtration of water by using 4-layered sand filtration system. We combined 4 small sand filters into one, creating 4-layered sand filter. This method was used because from previous treatments we discovered that the most effective was the filtration where sand filter was used for 2 times. We predicted that by doubling it we can decrease the salt level even more. Unfortunately, the results were not as effective as we supposed. Conductivity dropped from 0.1531 ppt to 0.1461 ppt, but still it is more effective than the cotton filtration or filtration paper method.
We were trying to make the conductivity as close as possible to drinkable water. It's about 0.135 parts per thousand. We have also used the freezing method, when you freeze the water and the particles of salt separate from the ice. Experimentally, we investigated that the particles of salt separate and remain on the bottom of the ice cube. When the temperature is 4 degrees Celsius, the water particles are much more heavier than the salt particles. This is why the salt goes in the bottom. The fact is that salt cannot freeze, only the water can freeze. The salt crystals simply do not fit in the molecular structure of ice.
From our experiment, we can conclude that only sand cannot filter as clean fresh water. It is efficient to remove algae but not the bacteria or all of the salts. If we are talking about the water of the Baltic Sea that was used in our experiment, then the conductivity of it is around 300 microsiemens per centimeter, while the healthy level is from 0 to 800. So if we can guarantee that the water is free of algae and bacteria, then it's actually drinkable. We presume that the best way to produce clean water from brackish sea includes 2 steps. Firstly, it is needed to filter out algae with the use of sand filter. Sand can also take out small amount of salts. After that, the water should be heated till it reaches the boiling point, because it will kill the bacteria. The water should be heated only to its boiling point and not more, as we do not want to use much energy. From different filters, sand is the most environmentally friendly material, as it can be used again for several times. Therefore, there is no depletion of natural capital. Unfortunately, we cannot guarantee that the water we produce is flavorless, but as water is used for different purposes, that water could still be used. Considering sanitation, for example, the toilets. These do not require water to have good taste. For this, the only requirement is that the water is free of bacteria and high concentrations of salts. As the water produced is healthy enough for drinking, then why cannot we use this to flush our toilets? If we can produce clean water with a very cheap, easy, and environmentally friendly way, then we should use it, because it could lower the need for consumption of the fresh water from natural resources.